How should you not respond to objections about high prices? Have you ever thought that you are losing many customers because you are simply handling objections about high prices incorrectly? My name is Serhi Heroes. I am a sales trainer, and now I will show you an example of how to and how not to respond to objections about high prices. Have you ever had such a dialogue? Imagine a customer saying to you, "This is too expensive for me." The seller responds, "But this is already the lowest price on the market." Forget about the phrase lowest price on the market. It does not work as an objection handling technique. For the customer, a lower price is forgotten in 2 seconds. Find the reason why. It seems expensive. It seems expensive to them because they do not understand the value of the product, and you are also asking them to pay for it. To address this objection, salespeople often start to argue, talk about a case study, or express expert opinions. But you must realize that any explanations work poorly if the customer does not trust or is not interested. Imagine that you want to sell consulting services for a business, and the client objects. Let's consider another ineffective option, as sometimes done. Check yourself. The customer says, "Expensive." The seller says, "It's so expensive because this is financial consulting designed for companies with high profits. Will you be buying?" I am offering you something unique and expensive, not what everyone else has. I would suggest replacing all these statements with questions. When the customer answers the question, they will understand the statement themselves and say it instead of you, essentially selling it to themselves. Let's consider another unsuccessful objection handling. I am the seller. You are the customer. I tell you, expensive compared to what? So, you or your manager have already presented your product, and the customer says it's expensive. Then you ask, expensive compared to what? Meanwhile, the customer is thinking about the products he buys after work, the washing machine, and the new Fendt Dyson he bought for his wife. So it means that everything is expensive for him. And this approach of compared to what does not work until you find the exact key for the customer. I will now show you one of the practical exercises from me. If a customer says expensive, you say yes. So the question is whether it will pay off or if you are buying it cheaper somewhere else. And what will the customer say? Do you think they will choose one of the options? Can you say it like that? Do you mean that you have seen it cheaper somewhere is the issue with the price, or perhaps you are unsure if it pays off and if it is beneficial? Here, the customer will choose the first, second, or third option. Say they need something cheaper or express concerns about the return on investment and not seeing the value. Here, the customer will provide some response, and in the meantime, we will move on to the next step and say, if I show you now what the value is, you test the product and really make sure it works and will bring profit. Would you hypothetically consider such an option? And what will the customer say? Well, what are you offering? So, we have turned the objection into interest. However, I can't tell you exactly what to say next, but with the provided phrases, you don't need to fight with the customer. You just need to turn the objection into a continuation of the dialogue. You know, most people skip this video. So if you haven't done so by this second, it means you like what I'm saying. And perhaps you are already imagining how you will try out the exercises I am giving you in practice. But don't rush into the fray. I will now give 3 more examples. Let's consider another not very effective response. Imagine you are a customer and the salesperson asks you, "Are you choosing based on price?" Instead, you can say this: "I understand that this is a matter of finances and budgets and whether funds are allocated for this, right?" And what will the client say? Yes? Then you continue. If your management reviews the budgets, analyzes whether this can pay off, and we demonstrate the value, create a step-by-step plan to ensure it truly brings profit, will you consider this project? What will the client say? Maybe. This is not yet a purchase. But here you also turn objections into a continuation of the dialogue. As you can see, both options I provided to you are very similar. We are simply rearranging the possible reasons and motives for why the customer is not buying and what needs to be done to make them buy. And in the third phrase, you can say this: imagine you are the client and I tell you, how about this idea? For example, we meet, review, and within the first 15 minutes, you will see why it works, how it works, and where to start so as not to waste time and ensure that this service will be very useful for you. What do you say? If the customer asks, "What exactly are you offering?" you continue, "We will send you our proposal by email, but before I do that, I will ask you a few questions to ensure you get something that truly helps you gain profit and save time." Okay. And what will the customer say? Okay, with these phrases, we will return to identifying the need so that we can then ask what is important to you, why it is important to you, and so on. This is what handling objections is about. You need to identify what is wrong and then return. 2. Identifying the need. If you are still watching me, then most likely what I am talking about resonates with you. Perhaps you could like this video so that as many people as possible can see it. The main thing is not to present or argue, but to identify the purchase rider. Simply put, your task is not to argue, but to identify. And what needs to happen for the customer to say, "Yes, I need this." It is important not to ask this question directly, but we need the answer to it. Another phrase that might be written in your script, but it does not work. I agree that price is important. Let me briefly go over the offer again. Why doesn't this work? Because any objection reduces the desire to talk and buy. First, it is advisable to regain interest, and only then talk about the offer. Why? Firstly, there has already been an objection, and we risk creating another objection by talking about the product. For example, you are offered to eat borscht, but it is hot, and you say, "I am full and cannot eat hot food." Then they start explaining to you why this food is healthy and tasty. Will you eat it? No, and I won't either. Instead of explaining why borscht is tasty and healthy, I would say this. So, will you eat it? If the borscht is not hot and when you want to eat, of course, this cannot be objected to because it is based on the customer's response. Therefore, there will be 100% agreement to this question, and then you will continue. What works better for you? Will you come back later, or when it cools down and you feel hungry? Or will you choose another meal later? This cannot be disputed either. You can choose an option or provide your own. Therefore, it is based on the customer's needs. Next, the person offering borscht and the one who might potentially eat it will figure out together what, when, and under what conditions it can or cannot be eaten. Another not very effective response. And at what price would you like to buy? This will not work well because you are focusing not on what is more important than the price, but on giving in. This way, you risk lowering your position in the negotiation. Maybe the customer is saying at what prices they will buy, and then what? Will you be giving a discount? There is almost always something more important than the price. Your task is to identify it and continue selling not the price, but the value. Of course, every business will have its own way of handling objections about high prices. If you want to find out how this will work for you, if you wish to test it on yourself, or live with your clients, write to me on Instagram or Telegram. We will arrange a call or a meeting, and you will hear the exact algorithm of phrases live adapted to your business. Contact information is in the description below the video.